Life is entrusted, not owned. Despair tests faith. Community matters. Life, as an amanat, trust. In Islam, life is not a personal possession, it is an amanat, a trust from Allah. Humans are caretakers, not owners, and every breath is a gift entrusted to them. The Quran reminds believers that only Allah determines the beginning and end of life, and no one has authority to override this divine will. Life's sanctity is absolute, and the act of suicide is strictly forbidden, haram. Yet Islam does not treat the human being as merely a rule-bound subject, it acknowledges the fragility of the soul. Life is sacred because it reflects Allah's will, and humans are called to honor it even when suffering seems overwhelming. This understanding frames the moral and spiritual conversation around despair, guiding believers toward patience, reflection, and seeking help within the community. Suicide is haram, life belongs to Allah. Suicide is strictly prohibited in Islam because it violates the divine trust. Life belongs to Allah alone, only He decides its duration. The Quran and Hadith repeatedly emphasize that attempting to end one's own life is a serious sin. However, this prohibition is framed not in cruelty but in divine mercy. Believers are reminded that suffering is temporary, a test, and that Allah's wisdom transcends human understanding. Even in moments of deep despair, the act of suicide removes the chance for spiritual growth, divine reward, and communal support. The Islamic moral framework couples prohibition with guidance: do not despair, seek patience, sabr, pray, and turn to the community for help. Patience and spiritual resilience. Sabr, or patience, is central to Islam's approach to suffering. Trials and hardships are seen as tests from Allah, and enduring them faithfully brings spiritual reward. The believer is encouraged to seek strength through prayer, reflection, and reliance on divine guidance. Patience is not passive resignation, it is an active, spiritual effort to maintain hope, avoid sin, and persevere. Importantly, Islam frames resilience in a community context. Friends, family, and the larger Muslim community are called to support those in distress. Faith, endurance, and communal care work together to protect the soul, reinforcing the idea that no one is meant to face despair entirely alone. Community responsibility and support. Islamic tradition emphasizes that the community plays a vital role in alleviating suffering. Believers are instructed to support each other spiritually, emotionally, and socially. The Prophet Muhammad repeatedly highlighted the importance of visiting the sick, helping the distressed, and listening to those in pain. A person in despair is not abandoned, they are embraced with compassion, patience, and guidance. This communal responsibility ensures that no believer faces the trials of life entirely alone. Through shared care, prayer, and empathy, the community embodies Allah's mercy, turning hardship into an opportunity for both individual growth and collective compassion. Trials and spiritual lessons. In Islam, suffering is seen as a test from Allah, not a punishment. Trials, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, are opportunities for growth, reflection, and spiritual purification. The believer is encouraged to endure with patience, sabr, pray for guidance, and maintain hope in divine wisdom. Even the heaviest burdens are framed as temporary, and every hardship carries the possibility of reward for perseverance. Importantly, Islam teaches that one's mental and emotional state influences responsibility. Despair caused by illness or extreme distress can reduce accountability, highlighting Allah's mercy. Faith does not demand perfection, but sincere effort in facing trials and seeking support. Divine mercy and forgiveness. Allah's mercy, rahmah, is central to the Islamic perspective on suffering and despair. Even when believers falter, they are invited to seek forgiveness and rely on divine compassion. Islam emphasizes that no sin or struggle places a person beyond Allah's mercy. Suicide, while haram, is understood within the broader spiritual context of mercy, compassion, and human limitation. Believers are taught that hope should never be abandoned, and that turning to Allah in times of distress provides spiritual solace and protection. Mercy is not abstract, it is an active principle manifested through prayer, community support, and ethical conduct. Patience and community intertwined. Patience, sabr, and community support are deeply intertwined in Islam. Hardship is not meant to be endured in isolation. The community of believers is called to observe, support, and guide those facing trials. Acts of kindness, empathy, and spiritual encouragement are seen as obligations, fard kifaya duties whose fulfillment strengthens the social fabric and protects individuals from despair. The believer learns that endurance is easier and more meaningful when paired with communal care. Islam teaches that supporting one another transforms trials into opportunities for collective spiritual growth and divine reward. Suffering as a path to reward. Islam views suffering not as meaningless pain, but as a path to spiritual reward and purification. Every trial faced with patience, prayer, and hope is an act that brings one closer to Allah. Believers are reminded that resilience amid hardship is not only noble but divinely recognized. The Quran repeatedly encourages trust in divine wisdom, emphasizing that hardship carries hidden blessings, lessons, and opportunities for spiritual elevation. Suicide removes the chance to complete this journey, whereas enduring suffering with faith opens the door to both spiritual and communal fulfillment. Help, compassion, and community duty. Islam emphasizes that helping those in distress is a communal duty. Compassionate actions, visiting, listening, advising, and supporting, are seen as both ethical responsibility and spiritual opportunity. The Prophet Muhammad highlighted repeatedly that neglecting the suffering of others diminishes communal integrity and spiritual merit. Believers are encouraged to actively notice signs of despair, offer guidance, and participate in networks of care, ensuring that no individual faces life's trials alone. This communal vigilance transforms hardship from isolation into collective resilience. Suffering as a test, not punishment. In Islam, suffering is never meaningless, it is a divine test. Every trial, pain, or emotional hardship provides an opportunity for spiritual growth, moral reflection, and closeness to Allah. The believer is reminded that life is entrusted, amanat, and patience, sabr, transforms pain into a path of reward. Suicide, while forbidden, is understood as the result of despair that could overwhelm human perception, yet Islam emphasizes that hope and divine mercy remain. Recognizing suffering as a test encourages believers to endure while seeking guidance and support, and to trust in Allah's wisdom even when the future feels uncertain. Mercy of Allah in despair. Allah's mercy, rahmah, extends to every soul, even those overwhelmed by despair. Islam teaches that divine compassion surpasses human understanding, and believers are encouraged to turn to Allah in prayer and reflection. While suicide is haram, the faith emphasizes that the person struggling is never beyond Allah's mercy. Compassion, both divine and communal, becomes a guiding principle, ensuring that believers recognize the value of life even in the most challenging moments. Mercy is active, it manifests through prayer, ethical conduct, and community support, reinforcing the sanctity of life and the hope for relief and spiritual reward. Patience and community support united. Patience, sabr, and community support are inseparable in Islam. Believers are encouraged to help, guide, and comfort those in distress, transforming personal trials into collective spiritual growth. Acts of compassion strengthen both the individual and the community, creating a network that protects vulnerable souls. Enduring hardship while relying on communal care demonstrates faith in action, reinforcing that no one is meant to face life's trials entirely alone. This balance between personal patience and collective responsibility embodies the Islamic ethical approach to suffering, mercy, and human solidarity. Spiritual reward for endurance. Islam emphasizes that enduring hardship with patience and faith leads to spiritual reward. Every moment of perseverance is recognized by Allah and transforms suffering into growth. Trials are reframed as opportunities for moral and spiritual elevation, rather than mere pain. By combining personal patience, reliance on divine guidance, and community support, believers navigate despair while cultivating resilience. Suicide interrupts this journey, whereas enduring it faithfully enables both individual spiritual progress and communal benefit. The Quran repeatedly highlights that life's tests are meant to refine character and strengthen faith, reminding believers that hope remains at every stage. Conclusion: life, suffering, and community. The Islamic perspective holds life as sacred, suffering as a test, and community support as an essential duty. Believers are encouraged to endure trials with patience, seek divine mercy, and actively participate in supporting one another. Suicide is prohibited because life belongs to Allah, yet Islam balances this prohibition with mercy, acknowledging the challenges of despair. Compassion, prayer, patience, and communal care unite to protect the soul and honor the sanctity of life. The ultimate lesson is that no suffering is faced alone. Allah's mercy and the community of believers provide guidance, hope, and spiritual opportunity, transforming trials into pathways of growth and reward. Final image: hope and trust. Faith, patience, and community converge to create hope in the face of despair. Life, entrusted by Allah, is never meaningless, and every trial carries opportunity for growth, reflection, and spiritual reward. Believers are called to honor life, uphold patience, and support one another, demonstrating mercy and care in action. The Islamic approach emphasizes that even the darkest moments are held within Allah's wisdom, and the faithful are never alone. Suffering is a test, mercy is present, and the community stands as a beacon of light, illustrating the profound ethical and spiritual framework of Islam.